You're listening to Phil DeBella, and this is FlashCast by PDB. And today I want to talk about advice. Great way to celebrate our 100th episode. Talk about advice, because in one way, shape or another, we're always doing advice. And FlashCast was on the built on the back of that. I've been able to provide some experiences from myself and answer questions for people. And at the end of the day, what we're doing is giving advice. So on the back of our 100th episode, and I thank everyone that's downloaded. It's been an amazing journey so far, and more to come. And please keep the questions and ideas coming, because that's what fuels this. And hopefully it's that's what brings the purpose, is about me helping people by sharing my experiences and all the rest of it. But let me kick off by saying the best way to give advice. Let me give you some tips about how I go about giving advice. And number one is telling a story. I'm not one for information and stats that bore people and all the rest of it. I talk about data analysis and strategy. And as you'll see over the last 99 episodes, I love to tell stories. I think stories are a great way to share advice with people. Step two, I try and chunk it down. And this is something I'm not always good at, but that's why the 10 minutes. It forces me to keep things short, sharp and concise. And at times with some of the feedback, and I take all feedback as constructive, I speak too quickly, and I do apologise for that. But I do try and jam in as much as I can, in the 10 minutes for people. But chunking things down, giving things a good structure, making sure that when you're advising on people, a lot of people, we can float. Our ideas have got 60,000 thoughts a day, and we're going in different directions. So structure your advice. Be respectful with your advice. Understand that there's, more than one perspective, explaining that it is your perspective, or what your intention is, but be respectful. Get to the point as quick as possible is important. And again, that's something I've had to work on, is getting to the point. Making it inspirational. We all love people that inspire us. The people I follow and watch and listen, the ones that are most memorable are the ones that inspire you, whether it's inspire you to do the right thing, or whether it's inspire you to make sure you don't do the wrong thing. The inspiration comes from all parts of life and from everywhere. Using your own experience is something that the Young Presidents Organisation has really taught me, that I've been part of for many years, is talking from experience. And if you're not talking from experience, right, that you're actually telling people it's your opinion versus talking from experience, because there are two different points. You don't know what you don't know. So letting people know that it's your experience speaking or it's your opinion speaking is important. And the last part really is, in terms of giving advice, is you've got to give advice. It's all about timing. If the person's not ready to listen or take it, or doesn't want it, then don't give it. Timing is everything, a bit like comedy. What they're saying might not be funny, but if it's said in the right timing, it can be very funny. Advice is the same. It's all about timing, giving advice when the right time is. So that's how I try and stick to, giving advice, and I'm not perfect at it by any means. So the next part I want to talk about, let's break it down: personal, family, professional, a few little things. So a few bits of advice in family, and a lot of it comes from my parents and my upbringing, is spend time with people that are smarter than you. Spend time with people that know more than you, that are more capable than you, so that you're always aspiring to be better. Is something that stands out, and that's something my dad always told me. My dad always said, don't make forever decisions based on the spur of the moment. And this was a really good risk calculator for me, is don't make life-changing decisions. Don't make lifelong decisions in the spur of the moment. This is something that really stands out, of what my dad said. And he used to always talk about being proactive, not reactive. And of course, he did this in his Italian language, being from Sicily, not in English. But he used to talk, and I'm translating it because you wouldn't understand it otherwise. But he used to always say, be proactive, not reactive. Think about things first, before you do it, because, disaster can be one step away. And so there are three messages that really stand out for me that I do share with my kids. I also talk about being the best that they can be. It's not all about getting A marks at school or B grades or whatever the grade is. It's more about the effort. I'd rather see an A for effort and a C result than an A result and a C effort. It's all about being the best you can be is the moral, the motto in our family, and the value. And the latest one I'm using, especially with a 12-year-old daughter heading into her tweens and talking about making sure that they're just enjoying life. They're not putting too much pressure on themselves. Don't take yourself too seriously. Life's not meant to be complicated at 12 years old. So it's something that I talk a lot about at the moment with our kids that are 12 and 10 is, there's time for, obviously you've got to put your schooling in, you've got to put your family in, your personal, but it's also a good time to enjoy the journey. Not all everything needs to be about the destination. And so that's the family advice at the moment that I've been following. Some of the best advice I've received over the years, is forgive and let go. Very hard to do, especially as a stubborn son of an Italian, is forgive and let go. It doesn't mean I'm going to forget, but I do forgive and let go. But that comes after I reconcile things. So learning to find what the problem is, reconcile it, deal with it in the moment, so that there's no ongoing emotions later. Forgive and let it go. Don't ever stop learning. I always talk about journey, not destination. Is a one that stands out for me, is that life is a journey. It's not a destination. So don't ever stop learning and growing as a person. And that's spiritually, mentally, physically, the whole lot. Change your thinking and it changes your life. The working of Joe Dispenza, which I love, is change your thinking. It changes your life. Treating people the way you want to be treated, and again, some of these might sound cliche, but these are more, to me, values. This is the advice that I've received that I've actually turned into values, even down to like a financial one. Save a portion of your earning, right? If you're making $10, save $2. Very simple. If you're making 10, don't spend 11. These are all bits of advice that have really stood out over the years and they've become values. And I think that's probably a good way to put it, is that when somebody gives you great advice, the best advice are ones that you actually turn into values in your life. If somebody takes the time to give you advice, then if it stands out and is distinctive to you, then you'll actually turn it into a value that you'll live by. They say that a piece of good advice is good advice, opposed to bad advice. There is no such thing as bad advice. There's just advice that you would listen and use, and there's advice that you would just disregard. But one could look at it, there is no bad advice, in its rural form. The distinction isn't always clear about advice, because a lot of it comes from intentions. So what I always say to people is to really try and understand what somebody's intention is when they're giving you advice, or asking clarifying questions. What perspective or position are you coming from? What's your intention with what you're sharing with me? Is a really, really good way to take at it. Because one thing that I've learned is that when I hear good advice, I should do two things with it. I should take it, and I do, and often turn it into value-based system, and pass it on. I think it's really important that you take good advice, but you also pass on good advice. It really, really is important. And some of the stuff that I've heard and passed on is things like, dreams remain dreams until you take action. It was written in the book that Alan Bonsall did, Entrepreneurial Intelligence. If you just dream about it, but you don't take any action, it just stays a dream. A dream becomes a vision when there's a plan. And remember that. The difference between a vision is that a dream remains a dream unless you take action. And the moment that you actually have a vision and build a plan, then you're taking action. So a dream then becomes a vision because it's enacted by a plan. You only fail once you quit. Is another one that stands out, and this is again from people that have passed stuff on to people that have passed it on. If you keep going, you actually haven't failed. It's only when you quit that you fail. Trusting your instincts. Now, this could be good and bad, but we're instinctive by nature. So, trusting your instincts is often, but also I take that one step further. Trust your instincts, but make sure that you're getting your source of information from many areas, and including this. People shouldn't just listen to FlashCast by PDB. They should be listening to all different FlashCasts or reading different things, or checking what I'm saying with somebody else. And not because you're checking on me, you're clarifying whether that works for you, or getting your learnings and then putting your own perspective into things based on your values and where you want to be. But the most important thing that comes out of this and advice to me is knowing yourself. Sitting down, personal, professional, family, knowing yourself, knowing where you are and where you want to be, and then building a map of the journey that's going to take you there. And of course, advice comes from different walks of life, from different people, from different experiences. And the best advice comes from people that are wise. And at 45, I'm far from ever going to be the wisest person in the room, because to me, wisdom comes with age. So I love sitting down with people that are a lot older than me, that have a lot more experience, and get out from them their advice. And to me, the best advice is often comes from people that have experienced the wrong thing, or experienced hurt, or experienced something in their life, because they normally have the best messages to share. And remember to understand the difference between advice that is based on knowledge and advice that is based on opinion. And that would be the key takeaway from this. Always put the advice that comes from experience ahead of advice from opinion. And if you're giving advice, be clear on where you're coming from. You've been listening to Phil DiBella. Thank you for 100 episodes. This is FlashCast by PDB, and here's to the next 100.